Unchurned is presented by UpdateAI.
Yep. So pillar one of my investment thesis is like, undoubtedly, the cost to serve customers is going to come down. And your competitive moat in this is you have to know your customers at a better level than ever before, because the pace of innovation is like changing so quickly. That's why we're seeing like, all these companies that like you probably win business off of at Series B, Series C, Series D, more mature companies who like you almost have feature parity with them because some of those moats, those technical moats have been eroded because of the shift. So, why you're winning is because you are out there in the world understanding your competitors and your customers at a better level, and you can build faster than ever before. So like pillar number one, margins improve. The key to success is know your customers at a better level than ever before, and certainly better than your competitors.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of CS and BS Unchurned. I'm Josh Schachter, your host. Usually I have Christy and John and the cast of characters, and they've all abandoned me this week. And it's like back to being OG when it was just my podcast and I could do whatever I wanted. So this is fun. And I'm really excited about my guest today, Mr. John Gleeson. John is a former CS executive at Motive. He's also the founder and the GP at Success Venture Partners. And he's one of the key organizers of the Customer Success Meetup, which is storming various cities and the meetup of all meetups in the customer success community. So John, thank you for being with me today.
Oh man, Josh, it's so good to catch up, and I'm honored to finally get to join the pod. This is awesome. So thank you.
We're honored to have you. We're honored to have you. And Christy and John send their very best. They're stuck in transit in flights today. But we're really excited. We talked about we were going to do this episode. This episode was going to be with 5 people, and somehow we got it down to 2, right? It was going to be with Gemma Cipriani Españera as well. We were going to talk about all things VC and venture in the world of customer success. Now we're going to talk about all things Success Venture Partners and what you guys are doing over there with your portfolio and your theses and all that stuff. So I'm really excited about the conversation.
You're stuck with me, man. It was meant to be, right?
We're stuck together. All right. So before we tell everybody to invest their money in your fund, let's boost the credibility a bit. Let's start to do some validation of who you are and your background and that you know your shit. So tell us, John, you left. Tell us your background. You're VP at Motive. Go.
Okay, cool. And I'll give you, I'm going to give you like the long answer, because I think it's like always important for people in CS to like understand maybe like where somebody came from to understand, where they're going.
Perfect.
So for me, like I'm a startup person, like through and through. If people are familiar with like the work of like Steve Blank and starting Lean and Lean Canvas and all of that, I came out of that class teaching, I was always an entrepreneur, but I didn't quite know where my entrepreneurial canvas would be until I found my way into that course on how to build like a high growth technology software business. So for folks who haven't read Starting Lean, 5 Steps to Epiphany, all that Steve Blank work, like put it on your must
Steve Blank
read.
was he's like the godfather of startups and iteration and lean startup, like you said. Before there was Eric Ries and those folks, it was Steve Blank, right? He's is he a professor somewhere? He's somehow academic, right?
Yeah, he's a professor at Berkeley.
At Berkeley.
Yeah, at Berkeley. And then everybody like riffed off of his work, and 90% of the companies out there, they get founded with that test, iterate type model. Yeah.
I reached out to him 4 years ago to invest in UpdateAI when we didn't even know what we were. And I somehow came across his email, and he was kind enough to respond, not invest, but I was happy with the response at that point.
Are you like always stoked when you like send off that cold email to somebody you admire and they like they actually respond. And you're like, whoa, this is so cool. I'm connecting with my hero.
Oh, totally. I mean, a quick story. When I was in college, I was running the ice hockey team, right? And I know you're a hockey player. And so I ran the club hockey team at Columbia. I think our annual budget was like $10,000, which is not a lot of money with New York sheets of ice, right? Even back 20 years ago. And this is like even before digital. I went into the alumni office or the administrative office. There's like a big encyclopedic book, like 1,000 pages of all the alumni email addresses and stuff. And Henry Kravis was an alumnus of Columbia. Now, Henry Kravis is the Kravis in the K in KKR, right? Yeah. So billionaire upon billionaire. I went to high school where he went to high school. I knew he kind of had a connection to hockey. I cold emailed Henry Kravis and asked him to donate money, this billionaire, right? Like Barbarians at the Gates, like the guy who started all of private equity, and asked him to, or the leverage buyout, and asked him to donate to the Columbia Ice Hockey Club team. And he responded. No, he didn't. But he responded. And I was, a 19-year-old kid. I was so excited that this guy had even just responded. Okay. Now back to your background, John.
So that's the original seed for me, Steve Blank. But anyways, I was in this course and we had to like build a company. So chapter 1 for me was basically joining a company that I connected with in this class, hire number 1, pre-product market fit, moved to New York City because we had a thesis that our ideal customers were in New York, and like literally like hustled my way around New York, much like you've been doing for the last few years. Just like, like you get your subway card, you go uptown, you go downtown, you eat pizza all day and just will your way in front of your first customers. So that was like chapter 1 for me. And it went like really well. Basically, we found some product market fit. So then I became like seller number 1. I was, boots on the ground, did the proverbial first $1 million in sales, and that was going well. So then we had to like hire a sales team. So the founders were like, hey, build a sales team. I was like, cool, can do that. So built out the first sales team. And then we had all these customers that we needed to renew. And the founders are like, yo, we've been reading this thing called customer success. Here's a blog post. Oh yeah, by the way, this is your new job. You're the figure it out guy. Figure out customer success. And I actually like went into that being like, well, this is a silly name. This probably isn't very good for my career. Like give me something substance with like sales. Everyone knows what that is. But anyways, it turned out to be like a really good thing for my career. The whole category of customer success was like exploding at this point in time. Anthony Kanata, the original Gainsight CMO, was putting on these amazing events, and they needed people to go on stage. So long before I was worth my salt in customer success, I started to, help the Gainsight crew evangelize this movement.
Were these some of like the original pulses that you attended and spoke at?
Yeah, original pulses. We did like, virtual pulses too, live from New York, and we'd like go like film in Bryant Park. So this is like the
nice
not way back in the day, but like almost 10 years ago now.
Yeah. Cool.
So that was like chapter 1, was just like coming of age, like found my way into customer success. As the first hire in a startup though, and this is where like chapter 2 starts, you get to ride shotgun with the founders on everything that they're doing. And so one of those things was fundraising. And, this again, 10 years ago, you actually got on a plane and you went to Sand Hill Road. And I was like, dang, man, I would love to be on the other side of the table one day. Like venture seems like the most exciting thing ever. These are people and their job is to take interviews all day to learn about what the future is going to look like. That seems endlessly stimulating. But that was not an option for me at that point in my career. But I basically took the insight, which was, okay, these folks are investing $1 million in a company. They're making a bet. I don't have $1 million to invest, but I have 4 years of my life. So like pick a winner. I would say like joining a startup, joining a company is probably the most concentrated bet you can make.
Yeah.
And so I just like set up Crunchbase, and every company that raised a seed or a series A over the span of about 6 months, I just like did my homework. So chapter 2 really started for me when I found this little company called Keep Truckin', less than $1 million in ARR. A lot of people in New York thought I was crazy. They were like, what do you mean you're moving across the country to join a company that is digitizing something for truckers. Like it was just like outside of the world that people knew. But I love the founders, and I was like, no, this is going to be big. And then, so the conclusion of chapter 2 was really grew that company from less than $1 million in ARR to $300 million in ARR when I left, and we created a $3 billion company. So
what was it about? So it was called Keep Truckin'. Now it's Motive, right? By the time you left. And by the way, it's such good advice. Listen, now's really tough for SaaS and for CS and a lot of people out there looking for their next thing. So not everybody has that ability right now to perhaps be so selective and judicial, but like, I love the fact that you thought about it in the sense of my next role. If I'm going to go the startup route, if I'm not going to go work for Procter & Gamble or whatever, then it's really the biggest bet that I'm going to make. Like that's my investment. That's like the same thing as calling my money manager and saying, hey, put it all on this ETF. So you want to really feel that conviction, not just for the sake of like, oh, cool, like I'm going to get this title and I'm going to be at this startup. Like, no, like this equity I want to actually have work out, right? Like I like the way that you position that for yourself. Yeah.
Oh, it's so important. And, I can't stress that enough. And I think too, like doing those exhaustive searches where you like find the company that you want and you like will your way into it. Cause that's what I did at Keep Truckin' Motive. Like they'd already hired their head of customer success, but I was like, I love this company so much. I'm going to like find a path in, I'm going to make even a role for me in the company. Is like, I always say, it's like, I would rather be the player on a team who's like the fourth line, to use a hockey term, but like winning a championship or have the chance to win a championship every single year, than the superstar of the team that's not going to the playoffs. Maybe you get to go to the All-Star game, but like at the end of your career, like, the people who have really achieved the most did so alongside the very best team. So like, make it all about the company, the team. All boats rise, I think, with a rising tide. And I think that gets overlooked so often.
And by the way, we know we'll just stick with hockey here. Like we know that those plumbers, right? Those third, fourth line guys that are doing the grind work, when they make a deep playoff run and they're up for free agency, the money comes, right? So they get rewarded for playing that role position. They get rewarded for it from being on the team that has been successful, even if they weren't playing that marquee role. So there's something to be said in your career as well. Like you want those logos to follow with you and that story to be part of your story. No.
Totally. Yeah, totally. So chapter 2. So now we're moving to chapter 3. So I made a goal when I got out to Silicon Valley. Like I want to get into venture on the other side of it. And one of the ways that you get into venture is, one, building a really good network, but two, making some investments. Like you need to have kind of a track record before you can even get into venture. So we got out to Silicon Valley, started to write some seed checks, very small. Like we're not talking a lot, like $5,000, really small checks. You had
left Motive at this point.
Oh no. So I'd left my first startup, joined Motive. Now I'm in like Silicon Valley. I'm on the stage where I want to be. Motive's going really well. We started the Meetup. Janan had started the Meetup and I joined. So it's starting to see like, just like the piping of how Silicon Valley works around networks and, people helping people and putting back in and then getting opportunities to invest in your friends or your friends' companies, things like that. And so while I was at Motive, I always said to myself, when Motive IPOs, I'll go into venture. And the thing that I need to get into venture is to have a track record. So I just started to write like some seed checks. Then Index Ventures, who was on our board, was like, hey, you keep passing us some pretty good deals. Like, do you want to be a scout with Index Ventures? And basically that's where they set up like a bank account in your name, their money's in it. And you get to write checks to seed stage and pre-seed stage companies. And it's all part of building their pipeline.
You were a scout.
Yeah. So I became a scout with Index Ventures, which was a wonderful experience. The most famous example of like a scout hitting a home run is Jason Calacanis, right? He was a scout with Sequoia. That's how he wrote that check into Uber that obviously ended very, very well for him. So became a scout with Index, started to build out that track record. And I always thought like, yeah, Motive's going to IPO. Maybe I'll put the hard press on Index and I'll get to finally get into venture with Index Ventures. But really the epiphany that came to me while I was doing this, and I think you'll appreciate this, is there was nobody out there investing professionally who had the post-sales side of the go-to-market strategy in their head, or had seen it at scale through as many stages of growth as I had. And that was really compelling to founders. And so like, you've been out there fundraising, building a cap table with all the skills that you're going to need to be successful as a company is important. And so I found myself like winning space on these really competitive cap tables where there's not a lot of space left, and being able to just, create room for this value that I could offer. And so
this is still as a scout. This is still as an Index Ventures scout.
Yeah, this is still as an Index Ventures scout. But once I started to see this happen, like, man, I couldn't put that back in the box. And I was like, there's got to be a venture firm that exists that provides value to entrepreneurs for everything that happens after they get that logo. And so that's what I've been building really for the last year now, is a venture firm that our value add to entrepreneurs isn't, helping them hire. It is, we can help them hire, but it's really like working with them on everything that they need to do once they land that first customer, or that 10th customer, or that 100th customer. So really bridging from like pre-seed, seed, all the way to Series A is where we can help.
And what's the driving force for you to focus on post sales and customer success? Is it? I mean, it sounds like, I guess it's because it's your background, and also just there wasn't anything out there at the before you started this. Yeah.
So okay. So how these like funding rounds happen is like generally, a company will raise, let's call it like an institutional seed. They'll raise an institutional seed. Big name XYZ will come on. They'll buy out most of that cap table. And then there's maybe $1 million left over. And then everybody fights over that remaining space, right? There's some scarcity there. And I saw, founders or other founders of other companies winning that allocation. I saw some like smaller funds work a lot with like go-to-market fund, GTM fund, as
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
So they're kind of, creating space for themselves there. And I just saw like this opportunity where it's like, when I shared with founders, hey, what are you going to do once you get that customer? They're like, never even thought of that. I'm definitely going to need some help with that. You could win allocation. And so like, I'm not investing per se in the next like CS technology. I'm investing across like all of SaaS. The thing that I help founders with is customer success, post-sales, expansion, account management, onboarding, the things that I learned and got really good at Keep Truckin' Motive. And that's like a winning strategy. There's basically like 3 pillars in ventures, like your ability to source. So can you see the best companies? Your ability to pick them, which is TBD. You don't really know if you're good at that for about 7 years. It takes a while for startups to become a thing. And your ability to win allocation. And so the customer success thing for me is my secret sauce, or like my competitive wedge, in order to win allocation in really hot companies.
Yeah. Cause you can go in there and talk about immediate value that you can add to the company. Yeah.
Yeah. And unique value prop too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So that's the third pillar. So let's go to the other 2 pillars. So sourcing and making the decision of what to invest in. What are you seeing right now in your deal flow? What are the trends and patterns out there? You recently closed your first fund, right? And not too long ago. And so you're just starting to deploy capital. Is that right?
Yeah. So I've wrote 2 checks out of the fund to date. So we just did our first close about 2 months ago. And awesome. We've written 2 checks out of the fund. So pretty cool.
Are you sharing the names or not publicly?
I can share one of them, and I can share a little bit about the second one.
Okay.
I don't think I can share the name yet. but
it's up to you. You got an audience. If they're CS based, I don't know, but you've got a captive audience here of inquiring minds of CS leaders and practitioners. So, shoot with what you can.
Cool. Well, maybe what I'll do is I'll share with you like just my thesis for the world, because I think
Sure.
like you and I have like a very, very similar thesis about the world. So like both of us love AI. And, we're not building foundational models. And I can't even afford to play at that level of the market. So we're at the app end of the AI ecosystem.
No anthropic investments.
It's kind of like, I always think of like the analog is like cloud, where it's like, we're not building a super scaler here. I'm not AWS. I'm trying to find like the next Salesforce, that technology that's built on this technology to come. Just like you're going to be the next Salesforce, right? You're building on that infrastructure. So, you and I both know like there's two places that these models work really, really well right now at the application layer. It's one, support, right? Finding the right-ish answer in large data sets to make the people, serving the customer more effective. So that's number one. Let's call it support. And number two is like writing code, right? It's really good at writing really good code. So the change in the world is one, you can now, or hopefully we're getting there, UpdateAI is solving this. You can now serve your customer with a greater margin, or with a better margin than you've ever had to or been able to before. That's really important. And you can also build at a faster pace than ever before, right?
Yep.
So pillar one of my investment thesis is like, undoubtedly, the cost to serve customers is going to come down. And your competitive moat in this is you have to know your customers at a better level than ever before, because the pace of innovation is like changing so quickly. That's why we're seeing like, all these companies that like you probably win business off of at Series B, Series C, Series D, more mature companies who like you almost have feature parity with them, because some of those moats, those technical moats have been eroded because of the shift. So, why you're winning is because you are out there in the world understanding your competitors and your customers at a better level, and you can build faster than ever before. So like pillar number one, margins improve. The key to success is know your customers at a better level than ever before, and certainly better than your competitors. So that's pillar number one in my thesis. So like I call it things that serve customers and or the people that serve customers. As that happens, what I think we're going to see is we're going to see actually more and more software fly into spaces that have been truly underserved by technology and software. Like Motive, we brought 1 in 4 commercial vehicles or SMB commercial vehicles online for the first time ever. People at every investment round, everybody always said, oh, it's too small of a market. It's too small of a market. It's too small of a market. We always took a discount, I think, on our valuation because like people pigeonholed us into trucking. Well, joke's on them. We created a $3 billion in counting company.
Yeah. Riches in the niches. Riches in the niches. That's what I always say.
I love that. I'm going to steal that. Yep. But yeah, especially too, though, as the margins get better, we're going to see it be possible to actually serve smaller and smaller niches. And so I'm really long like vertical SaaS things. So the first investment out of the fund is a company called Loamy. I'll tell you about it in a minute. But serving these real world spaces, maybe smaller TAMs than traditionally would have been acceptable. But if you can really serve their needs well, you can expand out the total value that you can basically extract from that customer base and give them lots and lots of solutions that help deliver value. So pillar number one is things that serve customers and or the people that serve customers. Pillar number two is technology for the real world, or vertical SaaS for underserved areas of the world who haven't experienced like all that software can do for them. That's pillar number two.
So tell us about, what was it, Loamy?
Yeah, Loamy.
How do you loan me? Like loan me the money?
No, like
No.
Loamy, like the gardening that I did over the weekend, the soil, man, it was Loamy. It was the highest quality soil.
Okay. How do you spell that? Because I want to give them the proper plug here, but people need to know what to go to.
Yeah, Loamy.
Okay. Loamy.ai, I'm going to guess.
I think it's getloamy.com.
Okay.
.com.
All
Yeah.
right. Google around for it. You'll find it.
Google around for it. But anyways, it's two founders out of Motive. That's one of my sourcing flywheels, is just like a lot of people will come to me when they're building stuff for the real world, right? Motive's known as a company that builds stuff for the real world. Anyways, these founders came out of Motive. One of the founders was actually on my original customer success team at Motive, or Keep Truckin', before moving into product. But at a core, what they're doing is they're building a logistics solution for the low end of the agriculture industry. So, you show up to Costco on any given Tuesday, you can get blueberries for $8.99, right? Downstream, those blueberries are coming from, let's say, Driscoll's, right? Downstream from there, Driscoll's is sourcing from, let's say, 20,000 farms around the globe so that they can procure berries so that on any given Tuesday, they can deliver to Costco. Well, the problem there is like most produce actually like doesn't make it to the shelves. Only 4 out of 10 berries get to the supermarket shelf. And because of expiration of the food or all kinds of things. Yeah. Fruit doesn't wait for anyone. Actually, here's when I was doing my diligence on this. When COVID hit, they canceled all visas, right? All visas got canceled. The very next day, they reinstated one visa. It was the H-1B-A visa. I want to say it's the farm laborers visa. And basically what they realized was like, if they didn't have hands to pick this fruit, like we would have a massive food supply. Food insecurity problem. And so like the very next day, they reinstated this visa. Anyways, Loamy is solving the logistics problem that exists between 20,000 farmers and getting the berries to Driscoll so that they can end up. And it's a logistics problem at its core. So these founders are, they built a logistics solution at Motive. They know the problem cold, and I've worked with them for 5-6 years. And part of the stage that I invest in is just like knowing the right founders to solve the right problem. And it's a bet on people too. So anyways, that's the first investment out of the fund. I'm super stoked on it. But yeah, solving a real world problem for a space where the existing incumbent is literally, looks like Windows 95.
No, I love it. Hey, everybody, it's Josh. I'm taking a quick break from the podcast to tell you a bit about UpdateAI. I started UpdateAI to solve 2 major challenges for CS teams. The first is that we save CSMs 4 to 5 hours per week with our productivity through AI. Secondly, we give leaders a window into all the conversations across each account and the entire portfolio. So we help knowledge transfer, we help increase the coverage model of your CS teams, and we help you detect emerging patterns in what your customers are telling your CSMs across all the risks, product feedback, advocacy moments, and expansion opportunities. So come check us out at www.updateai. It's completely free to sign up and trial. It actually reminds me, a couple of years ago, I sat down with the CEO of the Bouquets, like bouquet, thebouquets.com. And I'm actually a big user. I have been historically in that product. Just really high quality flowers. I felt this guilt when I lived over in California. My whole family was on the East Coast. So I signed up to this bouquet subscription for my mother and my grandmother, just as on demand or in the background. I didn't even realize it, but all of a sudden they receive it every 3 months and think that I'm, God's gift to, being a grandchild or whatever. But anyways, I remember sitting down with the CEO, and that company, despite all the, it's a subscription business, it's a B2C business, all these sorts of things, it's actually a logistics business, because it was all about how to get the flowers from Ecuador. I think they were primarily sourcing them, and reduce the time it took to get to distribute them to the actual, end customers. and they saved like 1 week per shipment of flowers on the end-to-end supply chain. And that's what allowed their flowers to stay nicer for an extra week, which is you pay premium for higher quality flowers. Yeah. So it's the same thing. I totally buy into it.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. I was taking notes there. I'm gonna do some Googling on that.
Yeah, check it. Yeah. I can try to introduce you to John Tabbis over at the Books. Good guy. I think he's kind of like emeritus status right now, because he paid his dues building the company for the first decade. But yeah, similar type of model. Yeah.
Cool. Love it.
So the other thing that you're very active in, and people, maybe even primarily know of you from, is the customer success meetups that you do. And so you've now been expanding them. You've got really exciting stuff coming in for the fall in New York City. Tell us a little bit about, for folks that, maybe haven't been to one of the meetups, give us the rundown on what you and Junan and Monica and the team have been doing there with those meetups for a few years.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll tell you like the genesis of the meetup. So we really it was an excuse to just talk to like the very best leaders in customer success. We've been doing them since 2016. Janan always jokes that at the first meetup, there was more pizzas than there were people. I think it was raining in San Francisco and the Warriors were playing in the playoffs. So that was a flop. But basically over the years, what it's come to be is this like really cool in-person community. You see us on LinkedIn. We're really not very good on LinkedIn. You probably would never know that we had existed because of LinkedIn. But we've just been hosting these events where we put people who are like deep in practice on stage. We've got a mailing list, and we send out a notification and we kind of throw a party with it. We have really good food now. We've graduated from pizzas. I like to think like conference level content. We get really good speakers.
Yep.
And yeah, we host them. So now we've got them going in San Francisco and New York City. New York City, just because like I have such an affinity for New York because the first years of my career, and I love the CS leaders in New York. And yeah, our goal with it is like we don't make money with it. It's not trying to become another job, although it is a job in and of itself. We do it because we love it. We've had people at our meetups who have become best friends, who go mountain biking together on the weekends, who've helped each other get different jobs. So the reward for us is just like seeing like this very organic in-person community flourish. And that's a good dopamine kick when you step back from the evening and it's been a great event.
Yeah.
People are smiling. So anyways, that's what it is. We're hosting our biggest meetup ever next fall. October 3rd in New York. It's going to be 800 people. We've had so much demand for our recent meetups that we're running out of like free venues to host them. We send an email and like 500 people sign up. We can usually only accommodate about 200 per fire code. And so that's what it is. But it's really like.
So I bought 3 tickets the other week. For the
event.
I
saw that. That was awesome. As soon as I came through, I was like, yes, there we go.
You got me on the discount. I have to say, I was going to be there either way, John. I shouldn't admit that, but I had to do it. Actually, one of the tickets is for somebody who I don't even know who that will be yet. It was just, we want to come strong.
Maybe whoever like emails in podcast with the best new lead for UpdateAI.
Okay, done. Let's do. I'll take you. Great. If you email me, Josh at UpdateAI with a lead that becomes something, or even close to something, then you will be rewarded with a free ticket to the.
That's up the bar. Fortune 500 6-figure deal. Come on, community, produce for Josh here.
I'll take anything over a 10K ACV. How about that? That feels worthy of a free ticket to the event. What's it called, John? Is there a website or anything?
We're working on the website right now. Gainsight's going to be a big sponsor, so we said we wouldn't spend a lot of time promoting it till after Pulse. So we're May 20th.
We're after Pulse. Yeah.
We got to get going. You can visit us at I think customer-success-meetup.com. There's some
Okay.
information there. We're going to launch the website and all the speakers hopefully this week if Janan finishes the website.
Love it. Come on, Janan, get on it. And Janan, I forget his last name, but he's a customer success leader manager at Slack, right?
Yeah. He's the head of customer success for the Americas at Slack. He's one of the best at long tail customer success I've ever met. He's good.
Awesome. Cool. What else, John? That's all I got for you. You know, Christy and John Johnson weren't here for the hard balls. So I threw you some softies.
I don't know. What do you think of just like all these releases last week? Like, I'm curious to pick your mind. Like we had UpdateAI, the big A one. I'm looking at your hat right now, and all I can think of is
yeah. Oh, Omni, right? OpenAI Omni.
Yeah. So just like 4, do we say 0 or 4.0 or the new?
I think it's Omni. I think they're calling it Omni. Yeah, yeah, because I think it's a 4, and then I think it's like the Latin or the Greek O. I think it's Omni.
Okay,
I could be wrong, but yeah.
And then
I love it.
Google stuff going down, and then we have Facebook scorching the earth with their open source models too. So what's your take on the world?
Oh, it's hard to keep up, honestly. I mean, I've fiddled around a little bit with Omni. I'm a big ChatGPT fan, despite the fact that we have AI in our platform. I mean, I still use ChatGPT probably a good 20 times a day. I mean, probably to a fault, honestly, because I probably lean on it in times where I don't have to lean on it, where it's like I'll feed it. I'm writing an email and I'll feed it a paragraph to polish for me when probably would have been quicker not to do that. But I every once in a while, it just gives me gold in ways to think about what I'm writing. Usually it's what I'm writing, right? But a lot of times it's other, looking up references and things like that. I think, if memory serves, because I was at Pulse last week, so my head was completely at a booth and buried.
You had a full-on week.
Yeah. I'm still kind of on my post-Pulse recovery. But by the way, it was amazing. I will give, since Gainsight's sponsoring your event and we work closely with them, it was exciting. And I was a little bit dubious of Pulse in Missouri and St. Louis. So, Nick was on 2 weeks ago and I kind of ribbed him a little bit. I was like, so Nick, what's the real reason of cost savings that Pulse is in St. Louis this year? And he wouldn't let me get there. But then I was there last week and I was like, maybe it wasn't just a cut, because it was cheaper than Moscow. And like St. Louis actually was a really nice place for it because you kind of took over a little bit. It's a small city. So it had more of like a vibe around Pulse. And the conference center is the conference center. It was just as nice or whatever as Moscone. And it was easier for folks to get to for most of us. So so it was a good event. That being said, I'm completely, anything that happened in the news in the past week, I'm completely out of. I just happened to read about the ChatGPT Omni before, like while I was on the flight over there. And something that's exciting, I think, still trying to figure out like how we would apply it in our product, not tomorrow, but let's say next year or later downstream, next couple quarters, is so, as we take recordings and the transcriptions and we synthesize insights and generate all that stuff, right, for customer conversations. But now there seems like there's more availability for generating insights around video and imagery. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, how could we use that? So if you're in a call and you're showing your QBR deck or your onboarding deck or whatever, and now all of a sudden, GPT is able, and these other technologies are able to give you insights around what's on the screen, that or somebody's body language. Right. Like that's even the next gen of sentiment and those sorts of things.
Oh, I completely agree. One, when you were saying, you rely on it to a fault. I'm the same way. I found myself on an airplane with no Wi-Fi a week ago. And I was like, what do I do? How do I do my job? And I agree too. I think like we've seen so much around text, that's been amazing. But, if we're going to take it to the next level, I think like the voice, image, and even like avatars. Like I was blown away. Did you see Reid Hoffman AI?
Oh, I have a bookmark. I haven't seen it. No. I hear it's pretty impressive though.
Oh, it's so cool. It's like I challenge everybody to like watch that and just like think about like what the future could be like. But basically, yeah, they trained up this model on every podcast, every book, everything that Reid Hoffman has ever done. So it's like the all-knowing Reid. And Reid Hoffman has a conversation with this avatar. So it's face and voice. The voice sounds like Reid Hoffman. And he puts Reid to work, or Reid Hoffman puts his AI to work. And it's pretty amazing, the dialogue that they have. And you start to see like where like, yeah, the outer bounds maybe of AI could be. I felt like watching that, I was getting like a glimpse into the future, which the second investment is in that in that vein. The founder was from Sucess. She started Sucess, and I'll
okay. I know you're saying too much. I know you're trying to keep it on lockdown. It's fine. I won't bait you into that.
Everybody can Google that. But no, I agree. I think like we're like in inning one. It's such exciting times for you. Creating the category really that you are. It's gonna be fun. Yeah,
totally. I mean, when we first kind of came across because we weren't really early to GPT, my younger cousin tells me in hindsight that I told you 9 months earlier that to go use GPT. Is like, Ben, I don't know. Did you really, or are you just claiming that now? But anyway, so we kind of came into it around the same time as everybody else. And we had been developing our own NLP, natural language processing. And I remember giving it to my head of data science to play around with and coming back to him 2 weeks later. And I was like, Sergey, what do you think? And I was worried that he was going to be completely crestfallen. And this is it. Like he's leaving the company. And he came back. He's like, well, it's better than ours. Great. Like we will never catch up, and that's fine. But then like my heart sinks, and I'm again waiting for him to leave. And he's like, but this is really exciting because we can do so much more now. And that's really like for us, it just unlocked a universe of capabilities that, now we're continuing to roll out. So it is exciting times.
I think we're entering one of the most exciting, albeit like different, scary times ever.
Totally.
But I feel like I have so much, like I'm so invigorated right now on like startups and people who are building, and it'll be like any other technology shift that has come before, but it's like these early years where like, the sky's the limit really of what we can do. And it's just fun to pay attention. It's, it's so interesting. Like I like studying like technology shifts that have come before, like the iPad or, mobile, or certainly like the cloud is the one that, and you think about so many of those things that you like just take for granted, and that didn't exist. And like, now you can't live without them. It's like, I spent the weekend, thinking about my lawn as middle-aged people do. And like this dearth of content online and all these other middle-aged dudes talking about their lawn on YouTube. It's like one of my biggest sources. And like, I like pinch myself because like that wasn't something that like even in college existed. Like YouTube wasn't a thing. I was reading over like old blog posts over the weekend where it's like Chris Dixon had wrote, the things that people are doing in their garage this weekend are the jobs that people will have in 10 years from now, is an old blog post from like 2015 or something. But it's so true. It's like, you're building a company around this, but there's lots of folks like us who are like playing with all of these releases and trying to build things.
Tinkering.
As they come out. And like, that will be what our job is, or what it looks like in 10 years from now, is the things that are happening in the startups or in the garages today.
Yeah. Well, or not, none of us have jobs. And so the job is that we have to find new hobbies. There is a school of folks that believe in that. Like we need to find hobbies quickly within the next decade.
I like it. Well, we could start a hockey team together. There we go. That's what we'll do.
There you go. Yeah. Cross-continental hockey team. I like it. We could call it like the KHL,
Yeah.
Cool. All right, John, let's leave it at that. How can people reach you if they want to reach out to you about the CS meetups? Well, you gave them the domain there. Janan, get on that. The Success Venture Partners and everything else you got going on.
Yeah, just email me. I try my best to respond to all of my emails. So it's just, John, this is dangerous. I'm going to get spammed so hard.
Yeah, totally.
But it's just John JHN at successvp.com. There's really three things that I love to do is I love to see the future. So if you're building a great company or you know somebody building a great company, it's never too early to get in touch with folks doing that. So send it my way. That's really fun.
That is a good question though, because so the first thing when I get inbound or whatever from investors, my question to them is, well, what stage are you interested in? What levels of revenues are you looking at? So what is your response for that?
For me, it's the earlier the better. Yeah. I love to meet two founders who are just coming out of a great company, have seen some success before, maybe not, and are in that ideation phase where I can help them maybe find their first institutional investor, where I can come alongside them in their journey. I'm trying to help them as best I can, even before it really gets off the ground. Early is better, but certainly if a company is about to raise a really hot Series A, and there's one spot left on the cap table, that's helpful too. But earlier the better. I'm new. So I'm working really hard and I'm trying to help as many people as I can. So that's number two is the meetup, bring great people. If we can help somebody via the meetup, we love to help. On that one, if you're coming in the meetup to look for a job, that's cool. That's one of the reasons we do it. But try and put back into the community before you take out. And if you email me looking for your next job, make it a little bit maybe more specific. Be yo, I noticed that you're connected to the CEO at this company. Could you make an introduction? Here's a blurb that you can forward. Stuff like that.
Yeah,
make it easy on the people who are trying to help you, or else you get buried in the bottom of their inbox because you have to wait till the weekend when they have time to do that.
All right. Well, that's the golden tip of the hour right there, because that applies to many people out there. Very good advice. John Gleeson, thank you so much for spending the afternoon with us.
Oh, of course. Well, have a wonderful afternoon. And I cannot wait to see you probably 2 weeks if my flight comes true.
Yes. Thanks, man.